I'm gonna credit this to myself. I'm the person that really pushed for us to start doing this in OCE. I did introduce it to the Black Veil. I am obviously the person who pushed for it so heavily in OSL. I think it is an incredible set, but we will just have to see when we get there how these two teams will manage. Obviously, neither of these teams being from OCE, we do have South Asia versus Southeast Asia, who are a bit more familiar with things outside of our region. They have better opportunities than a lot of us Australian players do to experience the world outside of OCE comp. And, you know, for Prada, some of that experience is going to come in spades here. He's already gotten a very early tag onto Macro, who will head to the bottom side of the map, taking his tag into the mid-map, using it to play around and last in this chase. But Prada, seeing that, wants none of it. Sees a random loud noise notification at 4 and does spot out L5D off of the back of it. That's going to be another injury coming on out. No Thana to spread around, slow down from these injuries, but injuries still will slow down the game. Macro having to mend, cannot get on a generator as he does so. Sultan cleansing a totem, I believe, setting up inner strength in his background as L5D takes his chase around Shaq. Prada does try to zip around, but does not pull it out in time. Instead, L5D will vault into his embrace, and that will be him on the ground. A first hook at 5 generators. MRN does have a decent bit of progress, though, up on this top side of the map, and Prada will be hooking on this pain res bottom mid. This is a very far drag. I was a little scared considering the passing he did take, but we do make it in time. MRN Shen will be pain res as Sultan and Macro get their reset off.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to go for a little bit more of the conventional play style here as to oppose of, Thana being brought in, which is what we saw more of yesterday, getting those tags in very early and not committing the first chase. It's just very fortunate for Prada to be able to down the first chase so quick in the trial over down at 6, or Shaq rather. We're going to be spotting 2 survivors here, just kind of with nothing to really work with out in the open, so not too sure what this is all about here. Maybe just getting a little bit lost in the sauce on who's going to go for the pull and whatnot, but that's going to spell 2 very quick tags, and we know how detrimental those can be to a killer like this. That is a major blunder from the survivors as it currently stands. So back on the case of the back foot, we're going to be working gens in the background here, just kind of leaving L5D to just sit on the hook there and just think about what he's done though. But I mean, he did make a fairly good death location over towards 6. It's just a shame his chase wasn't able to last a little bit longer. It's definitely something we would have liked to have seen. Prada is just able to just hold this second stage with not really much pressure to show for it. The survivors really struggling there, and it just came to the fact that, 2 of them were just sitting limbo over at 10. They needed to really be on generators at a time like that because there's so much time wasted. Now, with the second stage allocated to us, LSD is going to be hitting that stage, and we are going to be following up here onto this survivor Sultan, who's just forced off of 2 into 1's God Rock here, where we can play the check spots very nicely, greeting the pallet there. Incredible work here, but getting the stun too. This is the kind of chase you really need to bring back the game, but Prada knows that. He doesn't want to spend too much time chasing our ace and shades Sultan there. He's going to go straight back to the hook, just happening right before his eyes. That's the first generator of the trial procking in the distance there over at 11. So, and we got the pressure up and away. We really have to last here. We have reset the tunnel out, which is very good. LSD, or L5D rather, sorry, has just stealth off into the map, just crouched and trying to evade the killer at all costs. Now the next step for him is to get reset without being found. Prada knows this and wants to sniff out his tunnel out once more. And we know they're all the way over at 8. We can't really afford to go over there and reset them, though, because they're in a position where they don't want to be found. And if we spot the rotating survivor there too early, we could potentially lead them to L5D. And that's exactly what the survivors have clicked onto here, as we do take the Kagune tag onto Macro, who is now all of a sudden given Prada their 3 dashes here. Gonna get 2 done in the background as well. All in the meantime, we've wasted so much looking for that tunnel out, and it has not succeeded. As this chase gets taken here over at 1, I dare say they're going to go for a reset onto L5D while they have the time and the means to do so. Sultan going to be taking the chase around here. Backside 12, which is nice and far away from that. So, I mean, conventional gameplay, you really have to facilitate the tunnel and you cannot lose it in any regard. Otherwise, it is going to hurt Prada in the long run. It's still fairly early days, but we'll have to wait and see how that really pans out in the long run, Chief.
Yeah, I think that, having seen all 3 survivors, Macro, L5D, and MRN, towards that 8 to 10 region of the map, they were able to get those resets off quite nicely. Macro still not being reset yet, probably just opting to sit a gen quite safely, because we do still have this very nice 3-gen on the bottom side, which we do know that 2 of our survivors on the bottom side of the map will be trying to crack, as MRN is in chase towards 10 now, has this filler to play around quite safely. The swing through does come on out. That's that ping delaying our reactions, and unfortunately for MRN, that's a very, bad tag to take. We get the reversal as well, so no distance gained, and the vault on over does not buy us any safety either. Over to 10 deep we go. We do make this pallet just in time, and the greed comes on now. We try to swing through yet again, but this time Prada not again. MRN will venture deeper into 11, and Prada doesn't want any of it. He knows how important it is for him to hold on to these bottom side gens, and right now Sultan is sitting pretty on main. I'm sure him and MRN will be able to reset once that gen does pop. But they need to make sure that their friends down here on the bottom side, especially L5D, are not caught out in a bad position. A consolidation, at least for them, is that Prada is no longer enraged. He is significantly slower in his movement and bit less harmful in chase, despite the fact he's just managed to get that vault over Shack pallet, which could put Macro in a very troublesome spot, just barely able to make it back to the pallet. The swing on out does come through, but Macro makes it just in time. Prada finally able to get rid of that Shack pallet, and Sultan will be popping his gen at main, but right now Macro needs to do his best to last in this chase. We do have a few fillers around and this tile at 8. The cutoff occurs, and that does buy Macro not enough distance to the pallet. He will be on the floor. Thankfully, if L5D was on that gen at 5, he's actually not. He's just here 8 edge, making sure he stealths to the unhook. But Macro now getting dragged to the mid-map once again. This will be a second pain res of the game, our third hook so far. Potentially hitting one of those gens on the top side, as we do see both of our survivors rotating. Although Sultan has just been caught out at 3 Hunter, and he will need to do his damnedest to last.
Yeah, he's been pretty good so far, though. Hasn't been hooked just yet, but is injured, so he is vulnerable to the M1 down. However, Prada is now going to take his tentacles straight back to the tunnel out onto Macro, as we did lose L5D a little bit earlier on in the trial. Still have Wretched Fate up and running too, and with the hook onto the Obsession, it's not really going to do much. I don't really like this pick from Prada, but you know, I could be sorely mistaken later on. He doesn't really have anything once it's gone, and he only has the stacks of Pain Resonance to be working with and Eruption, to where we have yet to see him kick a generator and hold on to them. He's going to be following up the chase onto L5D here, so it is favorable that he has found his Once Upon a Time tunnel out, who's forced into the middle of the map here. Now, what can we work with as far as RNG goes? We do have this RNL just sitting in the middle of everything, and the LNT, so some nice setup to be working with. Do we opt to use maybe bottom mid more so? Yeah, look at that, the window laid out so nicely for us as we do vault over and then try to catch up with the distance, but this setup is proving to be a little too strong for our killer to be dealing with. Prada really trying to get those tentacles and potentially get in front of our survivor to just narrowly stop them before making anything else. But we got the protection hits coming in from the ace Sultan, who has been the MVP of this match, I might add, because the chases have been good. His macro has been good. He's there when he needs to be, you know, taking a hit for those serves. He's just playing absolutely great right now, and Prada going to be following up onto Macro, who is our second version of the tunnel out. So I'm not too sure where we spent all that time chasing LSD, only to give up in the long run here. I think maybe we're just getting a little bit antsy and we want to just take advantage of the remaining stages we can potentially get. But as far as that goes, I think Macro might not be the best survivor for the job here. We wanted to be chasing someone like Sultan or MRN, and we saw Sultan just before taking a protection hit for L5D. So if that was the case, maybe it was just better to take the tag onto L5D and then follow up the chase. And speak of the devil and speak of the game plan, he is here for that potential series to pan out. But as I do say that, I am slowly realizing that there is a mean 3-gen here over at the bottom half of the map where it can be potentially taken advantage of if we do manage to even find out L5D in a later part of the game. So after getting this down onto Macro, maybe we go for the pickup here or not. We do see scratch marks leading back into top. I'm not too sure who this survivor is. It does seem to be MRN, who is going to be getting hit with a Kagune tag. He's going to be able to use main. He has a dropped filler in front of him to kind of stop any sort of distance we can close in on us on the side of Prada. Prada is pretty happy to take those tags and play the game extra slow. Does not have any real reason to overcommit over at top, especially with a slug on the floor, which he will be picked up soon, I do believe. So trying to get a mean swing through that pallet. Sultan going to be stunning Prada. He's forced to break this now, and we don't have anything to be working with. Only the edge map and a dream. And all of a sudden, it is looking pretty grim for our survivors here over in the corner of 5 as Sultan does go down. Do we have a Pain Resonance in the vicinity, and do we want to use it? We probably do, considering 5 is pretty well progressed, about 50% of the way now. Probably a little bit less than that, around 30% after the proc of Pain Resonance hitting by. Prada is really trying to get that chase back onto Macro, but after latching onto him, that's all of our 3 dashes allocated back towards us. Prada does see and spot out the rotating survivor ready for the pull. It's going to be MRN MRN. Another fresh hook going down, and we can even slug this as we do see Macro just rotate off of mid-9 and doesn't really have anywhere to go besides the pallet up. We do see L5D rotating in for the pull, and do we divert and go onto him after getting the tag onto Macro? It would be the best decision right now as Prada does take the tag there and rotate like clockwork as such. Does manage to see L5D, but the body blocks coming in from Sultan. We need to manage to get MRN back off the floor on the side of Macro, but he might be intercepted here if we choose to divert just a little bit. There it is. We do see Macro try to go for the pickup, but he was not allocated enough time. Vault over once, and do we hit him over? No, we don't, because we stood still and lost collision with the killer. Where are you looking, L5D? You're not looking where the killer is, my god, getting tagged there. Prada blowing it up here, really trying to putting on the jets rather, sorry. We do manage to get that fast vault on the side of MRN, but Prada straight back on the case over at bottom half of the map. Really wants to take advantage of these injures and these slugs. Everybody up and at him at the trial here, but the map is running dry in this area here, Chief.
100%. We have run out of resources nearly entirely on the bottom side of the map, and for Sultan, that is going to prove quite problematic. We do still have access to Shack Window, which is going to buy us some safety, and Prada already looking to leave off of those 2 vaults, knowing that we really need to be weary of these generators. They could be pumping with 4 survivors in the trial. Even though they are all injured, things are still progressing favorably for them. They do need to be relatively careful, though. Every single time that we catch a survivor out of position, we could end the game there and then. The Ghoul has so much potential to be able to slug. That double back comes at the perfect time, though, and MRN, with that gen popping, is healed by Adrenaline. Sultan on the ground, though, and that will be our 5th hook of the trial. 5 stages with the potential of a basement hook. I think Prada's going to want to play for more, but our gates are all the way on the top side of the map, Hunter. Even if we do get this hook in the basement, I'm not too sure we can do anything else but protect it now. Play for our 6 stages, and I think our survivors are going to be more than happy with that. The gate is open. I'm suspecting the fact that they haven't left yet, we may be getting some resets off. Maybe we do try to play for this, which I think could be a bit foolish, but no. Macro out the door, L5D.
So they must be a very good Ghoul after what we had just read in their comments section. But nevertheless, it will be, yes, L5D straight off the rip into the game. And yes, we can see the lovely add-ons there. Thank you, Spectator, the coffee and the satchel. I do believe that was what was shown. But we are going to be just looking around here in the middle of the map over at 12, where we have this nice vantage point on the hill to see any any crossing survivors. But we do manage to spot out our Claudette just stealthing around the corner of 4. It's going to be Prada, our killer from last match. Let's see what he can do here. We're going to hope for a better chase this time around, as Torpose is the one that we saw last trial. But as I do say that, we are going to be leaving entirely and going for another tag, another Kagune tag. And we do manage to find out Adam here, MDIIDN. I'm not too sure who this is or what this name is all about. It must be one of their new survivors, but he is going to be getting tagged as well. Likewise, when looking at Prada. So it's going to be 2 injured on the board, and it's already looking pretty favorable for our killer to just follow up here over at top mid, and we do not make that pallet after a very nice dash there. L5D going to be picking up straight away. No worries in the world about a pallet save. Well, we got a little bit hesitant there. I mean, why wouldn't you, as far as the survivors do die on a pallet? But we've opted to save the pain resonance here and go for a hook over in deep corner 11 to force the survivors to flip the map in which they started. Already just, it would have taken them so long to cross through mid and get on the generators here. Having a hook just in the middle of everything over at top is just not what you need in this scenario. Going to be getting a nice Kagune tag onto Biru as well. So all of a sudden, Biru and Prada both injured. We do have turn back the clock to kind of negate that generator there over at 9 or 10 rather, sorry. Going to be using the tentacles to get over towards 1 and push whoever is working this generator here off of it. Not too sure where they are right now. Probably stealthing edge map somewhere, but we do take the kick with the eruption in hand, and we are looking for them, and we see them around the coal bucket. So going to be getting that tag onto them too. L5D now having everybody injured on the board is going to be returning to the hook, and we do spot out the Crossroads survivor going for the pull. It's going to be Biru straight back on the floor. MD, Adam or something is going to be going into the middle section of the map, and we're going to be hooking very deep now, and that's going to stop all progression on the most progressed generator. I'm not too sure if that was 1 or if it's somewhere over in bottom, but from where I'm I'm hearing the screams and no sparks happening over at 1, it did lead me to believe that it was probably 7 or Shaq getting hit with pain resonance. Or maybe it was even closer, who knows. Reese's is going to be the next survivor in chase though, and getting caught on the lip of the wall there is LSD, L5D. Going to still be following up here onto Reese's, going for a little bit of an ambitious swing through the pallets, but the mind game's coming in and it's not quite connecting. Going to still be playing around this Orman filler here, but he might even elect to leave this and go back for somebody who's going to be rotating for the hook. They probably want to be even going for the pressure here, I'm not too sure. Or even a reset. Prada and Reese's really need to be healthy at the moment, but they cannot afford to be caught out by our killer. MD can go for the save, or he can go for some gen pressure at the moment. He has options, but with the state of the game, I dare say he's just going to be slowly rotating. If he's slowly rotating and then we're going for... Oh, no, we're actually going for a gen pressure in the background. I'm not too sure who would have been on that. I do believe it would have been MD to some degree. No, he is rotating for the pool. It was an injured survivor. Now they're going to be resetting, surely. I'm not too sure, but it's already looking like shambles at the moment as we do get the pull here. It's not going to be the tag, though. MD is forced to eat it just on the outside of that pallet there as we do traverse around the inside of main. We are going to be trying to body block him just before the doorway, but we have this really short filler to be working with, and we've pre-dropped it, and I hate that play, but we're able to use the window after losing the 50-50 mind game. L5D going to be following up with the tentacles there, really trying to block Adam in every regard that's possible. Going for a little bit of a fake there after the first vault, but we only have $50 to spare. That's going to be L5D picking up another stage yet again for Adam to reach the second stage of the trial. He's still pain resonance as well, pain resonance stack as well, so it's going to stop all the pressure over at bottom. L5D looking pretty scary right now.
Yeah, look, he's already managed to achieve 3 of the 7 stages. He needs to take this win outright, or 6 if he is able to hook Reese's and Prada both. 4 fresh 6 stages is the win for L5D, and considering the fact we're halfway there with 4 generators remaining, I would dare say he's probably in the front-running position to do that. But speaking of gens, there is the second one to pop. Prada cut off from this pallet, but L5D unfortunately unable to prevent him from making it safely. Now, back to the mid-map. We did spot Biru trying to make his rotation towards the unhook. This is kind of the problem of the Ghoul and the amount of pressure he can apply when everyone is so tightly knit in a 4 or 5 gen situation on one side of the map on Suffocation Pit. Kind of can't afford to pull sometimes because everybody is now injured. The hook is in a very inopportune spot, and you come in for this unhook, it's going to end up slugged on top of them, and both survivors you try to 2-man with, if you do attempt a 2-man, could end up in that situation. And ultimately, with such a low win condition, you can't afford to allow that to happen. So, Midi, Adam, will be dying on this hook. Nothing that our survivors can do, having to play out the 3v1. A perfect 3v1 required, might I add. Only 2 hooks left that they can give up on one survivor, or 1 hook if they were looking for 4 fresh. L5D, once again, in the front running position to take the set already. He's going to get his Enrage back from his Kagune tag onto Reese's. Jake will take his distance to bottom, but the top mid gen that Biru was working on must be abandoned. L5D rather will be applying Eruption and following the chase into the mid map yet again. Biru does have a nice few resources around. We did see that Almond tile there top mid. We do still have this jungle here mid 9, and Champion's Light will be slowing us down as we break that pallet, and that does give Biru some distance further down the map and to safety. L5D though venturing back to the top side. We catch out our Jake once more, who has to play around a Serpent tile at 3. This is unbelievably threatening for his life right now. We're going to make the pallet just in time. L5D will fake it. The vault comes on out. The grab is cancelled, and that's going to put us on the ground. The swing, more than enough. 5 stages of 6 required for the win. You do see Prada slamming out those motors at main, and top mid, unfortunately, hooked right on top of yet again. Biru must play very, very carefully now because we cannot afford to give up a single stage from this point, Hunter.
Sorry, I do apologize. I muted myself on accident. I hate my microphone sometimes. Anyway, moving on. He's going to be L5D onto Prada after pre-dropping that main filler pallet there. Is going to be forced to utilize the window. Going to be utilizing turn back the clock as well. So, oh no, and we've seen that twice. Wait, was that intended? Hold on a second. Doesn't really make anything after that, but maybe that was a... Yeah, no, it would. Yeah, no, we know it was balanced landing. Thank you. We got that far. I don't think it was intended. I honestly think we were trying to play around the doorway before maybe making one more loop and then going for it. I don't know. But anyway, it probably didn't help them anyway, having balanced landing. L5D now going to be taking advantage of that down. We're going to stop all the progression here over at top mid. Biru is going to be following up onto this pallet, this Ormond filler that had not been dropped yet. And we played a little preemptive on the mind game there. If we just powered it down, we would have been able to get the M1, but it's fine. We are still in that power position, and L5D just trying to play around that long wall there, trying to catch our survivor off guard, but we're eating him a little too well. Beery is forced to use 8 now, and it's a very short filler. This is one that is a natural 50-50, and we played a little too slow, and we're going to be slapping and getting the stun, but it is ping dependent, and it is kind of a ping set, actually. I don't really remember the values, but you know, I'm pretty sure that's fairly in the mid to high tier range. Sorry, L5D after getting that hit down is you know, pretty happy to go back over to main and just intercept it. And I do believe beforehand it was Reese's, as we do take the break of the generator here. L5D back on the case over at main. Going to be using his traversal tentacles here to try to see who is just stealthing around the edge map, and it's going to be Prada, who was once our survivor working main, I do believe. So he's going to be using the serpentile to his effect. I don't know what you called it beforehand. I kind of heard it, kind of didn't. My apologies, but we are going to be vaulting the L there straight into the backside of mid, and there isn't really a lot to be working with here. Prada has not judged his distance too well, so he's going to be getting hit down after the window there, which is fine given the fact of the circumstance that he actually finds himself in, and that's a failed blind attempt as well, just not what we need. This might even be just the win condition met. It will be 6 stages allocated across the board for Fresh, so we'll win on the Fresh hooks. Well, it looks like we're always going to win in the first place, having a tunnel out gone out of the match so early on. I do believe it was around 3 to 2 generators remaining in the trial, so L5D going to be taking the break on all these pallets here and sniffing out the remaining survivors. Reese's and Biru went for a little bit of reset off in the distance somewhere. Biru straight back on another generator, about 25% of the way. They can at least pull it back to the 4K1 to give the team the morale boost they need after losing their pick, because again, we have to go into the Nightmare set with our heads held up high and try to at least pinch one again to make it one apiece, and then go into the tiebreaker of Lich. But I mean, L5D looking very strong in this set nonetheless, and if he's the killer for next game, I am very scared of what yet to come, Chief.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a very strong start for Scouts at this point, and I am feeling pretty good about them. We did see them last week put on a decent performance as well, and if they can keep up this momentum heading into our second set, I'm sure they will be looking quite strong to, you know, keep themselves going for a potential victory on the day. That set, of course, will be Nightmare on Dead Dog Saloon. It is their pick, so definitely in their favor just off the back of that. But Ghoul, apparently something they're quite comfortable on as well. As we did mention previously, this man L5D apparently is very, very comfy on the killer, and public lobbies seem to despise him, so you know, that's as much credit as you do need sometimes. Beer, though, able to pop this final gen potentially of the trial, as we do see Reese's taking the last chase he may have. Beer's location has been revealed to us by that gen pop, so I do suspect L5D will be hot on his trail, and yeah, he is close by, holding on to that beam just in case, trying to potentially get a flashlight save for, you know, the memes, the clips, and whatever else, but L5D wants none of it, cutting him off from that pallet gym, or rather, sorry, the Ormond tile, heads back into the jungle without the window in distance. That will be him on the ground, a 4K1 secured. Well played by L5D, able to take the set of Semipro. Usually, you don't expect teams to take the reverse fixture, but we've done it tonight, and honestly, it does set you up for a nice and clean 2-0. Like I said, we are heading into Scouts' pick next, and if they can keep up this momentum, I am expecting great things. But Hunter, we do have a little bit of time before we are into that. We have to get that.
Not going to be L5D as we would have thought. They're unlucky, but I mean, Sultan probably the next best man for the job, as he does load in here with some interesting. No, the ping is all okay. It was just getting a little bit weird on our end, but we are up and running. Sultan's going to be straight away breaking the doors, and that's exactly how you want to play the Dead Dog Saloon. Probably even over at main as well. Once you start looking for those survivors, getting your setup, and this is how you treat this killer. Like most of the time, actually, you set up your pallets, your fake pallets, so you can get those procs in a little bit later on in the game. As we do say that, we are going to be also setting up main, and like I said just 4 moments ago, that's going to be breaking the doors just to make main all that little bit weaker. Considering this killer can be the big harmless sometimes, especially when you're just doing all those nice dodges around those projectiles and making sure you're not falling for any funny teleport shenanigans. But Sultan, after taking the break onto that main building and Shack and setting up his fake pallets, is going to now be spotting out his first chase, hopefully. The survivors are rotating fairly slowly, and they want to do so to evade line of sight, evade the tags, evade for any unnecessary health states given up to our killer. But I think we do catch sight of somebody just in a few seconds, as we do see the first survivor of the trial working over at 8 and another one working over at 9. Our Jake Park just stealthing about. Hopefully doesn't get found, at least for our survivor's sake. Sultan knows about his whereabouts and is really trying to sniff out his nearby location, as we do spot him there, just hauling us down into main. We are not going to be successful with the break of that pallet there, and the AoE is not going to serve us justice, as it's going to fall short. It's going to be Reese's in chase here. Going to be electing to greed the window of main and try to utilize the window downstairs after eating that tag. And it's pretty conventional that you run the back window to the top back. It's very stock standard stuff. So after taking that tag, Sultan pretty happy to go back on the case here over towards these backyard gens, as he does still have a little bit of corrupts to be working with. But look how much pressure 8 has already been allocated towards us. Biru straight onto 6 as well, doubling it even. Survivor's having a pretty good start here, Chief. I cannot lie to you, but you are well versed in this killer, as he tends to be one of your killers you like to play. So how about you enlighten us on what you'd like to see and what you wouldn't like to see?
I actually do love this killer, Hunter. Thank you for handing it off to me. We are seeing a bit of a different look for the Nightmare in OCE. We've allowed a lot more flexibility with what you can bring. Finally, Pill Bottle has arrived in OCE. You aren't harmless Chungus with everyone being awake at all times. You finally can do stuff with your power, and that does feel good. The other thing you have now is Jump Rope, which makes your snares a little bit more harmful as well. And as you can see, Reese's did attempt to dodge that snare and ultimately met his demise because of it. Too much distance was lost on that dodge, and Sultan able to catch up just in time. But 2 generators did pop for that first chase. It's exactly what Semipro do need. And the next thing I do want to talk about, Hunter, is the build. There are a lot of things you can do on this killer, because it's a very flexible killer with its kit. It has a teleport which favors itself to things like Dragon's Grip. You can play a sort of very aggressive, sloppy, Dragons, Eruption, and I've seen also in combination with that Call of Brine, no pain res, corrupt, etc., etc. Something that Bubo actually did recently, 2 weeks ago, was that exact build. And another very popular strategy is to omit all of your aggression and opt for slowdown. Obviously, that isn't the case here. We don't have the likes of Grim and Deadlock. We do have a very standard build of sloppy, Eruption, pain res, and corrupt. It's a very high roll build, allows you to play for those 4Ks, but you cannot really adapt to slow down the game when you need to and play for as many stages, which is what other builds can favor. Sultan, though, really on the back foot with those 2 gens having popped. We did get a tag onto our Claudette, but Reese's Jake unhooked freely, and now Biru on main in chase. He will make this window just in time. The medium vault not enough. This pallet was not timed well enough, though, to get the tag through it. You can get a tag through that window drop with that pallet. Sultan was just a bit too delayed, and Biru will escape with his life, taking M1 towards 5 now, and it's up to Sultan to catch another survivor out. We find our tunnel out here as well, but we do have 4 tile chaining nicely into Shack. Our snare will not be able to slow us down. The pallet will be used, and that will be Reese's reaching safety. Prada waking himself up, or rather, I don't know actually what. Yeah, sorry, he woke up Biru. I see. I was very confused by the HUD there, and that does spell a reset coming on through Biru, and Prada will be able to play alongside Reese's shortly. But I don't think that will matter. Reese's will be on the ground. That will be his second hook of the trial. We have slowed things down a fair bit. We don't have much progress left, and this will be our first pain res used. So whatever gen was being worked will be slowed down that little bit more. Resets have come through though, and that does mean we have a bit more time to work around. Sultan can look to be a bit aggressive. I was a bit worried about this teleport hunter because if you do teleport to an elevated gen on this map, you can fall out of the map. Luckily for Sultan, none of that has occurred. He has made it safely to 3 off of the back of that teleport and can continue to patrol his gen spotting. I believe that was Biru up on main, sitting that gen quite nicely, but it is in his best interest now to make sure Reese's either dies or is traded for on this hook. We want to apply as much pressure to this survivor as possible. Forcing the 3v1 now is our ultimate goal. We need to make sure that we can reduce the amount of survivors able to comfortably split these gens, and right now, it's not really in the interest of our survivors to play for this pull, but Biru, I believe, is here for it. Yeah, there you go, playing for it. Maybe a last second trade will come through. We know Prada has another gen of about 50%, and Biru giving up a trade would result in yet another pain res to interrupt it, but problem with this hook, as we've just seen, is it is very easy to body block, and Sultan is attempting to do so, but no. Unfortunately, Reese's off the hook last second for him. The trade has come through. Biru is on the ground. The pain res will be taken as Reese's has to play around his resources here. I'm not too sure where else he may venture off to, but we do see him taking his distance towards main now, and Sultan has teleported right on top of him to cut him off. The pallet has been used, and once again to no effect. Reese's had read into the teleport as well. Hunter taking the distance back to Shaq, and it's going to be up to him to last in this chase now.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And he only has his carriage pallet to be working with. It's a weak one at that. He's going to be getting hit through it. That's going to be him down. And the tunnel out of the trial, where all of a sudden it is looking pretty likely that Sultan can 4K from this position, or at least get high stages at the very least. We are going to be taking this hook here just towards the 8 section, and straight after that with some killer instinct. We know the whereabouts of our other survivors, but we opt to go and teleport towards this highly progressive generator here over at main, or is it highly progressive? It's about, if I heard correctly, about 40% of the way, as we do find out our V here, Biru, who's just going to be narrowly missing that projectile after the break of the pallet there, trying to get that explosion, that AoE, area of effect. And we are going to be just trying to play the 50-50 mind game after dropping the worst filler on this map, and I'm not too sure why we have done so. We really needed to play for the stun regardless if you go down at the pallet, because once it's down, you're down. That's it. Like, there's no way you win that pallet unless the killer screws up pretty badly, which 9 times out of 10 they won't. And the one time you do see it, I'll be the first one to point it out. But we are going to be taking this break here over towards 3. Again, just going on the front foot here, looking for anybody stealthing around this 3 section, maybe even going towards 8 and seeing if anybody's making a rotation, but we don't spot anybody out just yet. It's probably well, honestly, we've played the passive game, and I was look, it was looking pretty grim beforehand. Oh, that's, you know what, speaking of grim, that's a really badly timed and failed save. All of a sudden, you don't really have to do too much if you're Sultan here. You just kind of camp out the stages, and look at that, we've even spotted the bro Prada just hiding behind the hay bale. He is going to be going down, but he does manage to get the unhook just in time. Where did the unhooked survivor go? Got a little bit of a speed boost. Hang on, even I got a little bit lost there. They've gone down to 6. Look at the scratch marks. Surely you don't look too far around main. Don't be in your head. Honestly, it's not that deep. Trust. There's beer here over at the water tower, and hopefully we can hear him. Well, we see him anyway, so this is going to be just the 4K2 solidified. You know, Semipro just not really having a good day at the moment, as we do manage to pre-drop this pallet here over at the water tower. That will be Biru going down. And I was just leading towards talking about what happened over at 8. It was a lot of time wasted for our killer, especially when we were trying to body block, and we did manage to get the unhook there, but it's just unfortunate that we found our tunnel. As soon as we found our tunnel out, maybe a minute after, the game just kind of went crumbling, and it didn't even really matter. I don't even know what kind of the gen pressure was really looking like. I know we got one of the gens over at top done. I think it was more towards the 1 section, yeah, over towards maybe 12 road. We had some fair bit of progression on main, but we always left it because our killer was always teleporting there, and we couldn't actually work at teleported gen on now, could we? But I mean, Sultan played very well to just capitalize on all of the mistakes, and the biggest mistake here in the late game was that failed save from Miri, the Claudette here. It was honestly what lost them that last generator. They could have at least played for the 4K1, but after Sultan caught sight of the rotation for the pool, and we had nowhere near enough distance, we just had to greet it. Or even then, it's just still very unlikely that you even get far, because everything on the map has been thrown. It's blocked in the game. So, but regardless, it would be applied in the effect afterwards. It just would have happened a little bit later. And what a shame it would have been if we tied somehow. But no ties happening around here unless, Semipro decides to have 2 penalties incurred in the span of their match time. I just don't think that is possible. But we will be seeing a rotating survivor here taking the first chase of the game. And it's going to be L5D pre-dropping here over at 9. And he's going to be trying to make the carriage pallet into the shack for a very strong chase to start off with. As we do utilize the projectiles there, we are going to be hitting them, putting LSD into the dream phase and winning that stun too to be able to make the shack. But we've second guessed ourselves, did not anticipate the break. Going to be utilizing the window there, and Prada knows he has time to leave this chase and go for something a little bit more favorable. We do see our ace in shades working this generator here over at the road at 12, really trying to play for that stun. MRN trying to vault the pallet there untouched, and we are going to be trying to slap him over the fence there, but that's not going to quite work out, unfortunately, for Prada, as we do take the chase back onto MRN here over at 3. We are faking going up the stairs, and it's diverted our killer for a moment's hesitation, and we can still play the 50s, but lose them all in the long run, and we've even sacrificed a little bit of distance in saying so. We do vault the window there and try to play the long side of the T, but I don't think we make a pallet in time. I don't even think we make the window with the swing like that. Yeah, you're just going to be going down. Ping, maybe. I just don't even think that ping really played into effect there, but it was pretty close nonetheless. Going to be a pain resident straight off the rip, and it's going to be in the middle of the map out on the front of main, Chief.
Yeah, look, we've got a really good hook and a really good spot. This pain raise is going to do us a lot of favors. Rebecca, Sultan, his gen has been interrupted. I'm not too sure if it was this gen at 12, but it looks like it was. We do see Sultan leaving towards the back of 1. A very quick unhook does get us safely away from Sultan. He can continue to work that gen peacefully, but a teleport to Gallows for a potential cut off onto our tunnel was preferred, but holding distance around Shack MRN will be quite safe. Despite the fact we do have a fair few dream pallets set up around the area, they could come into play at any time. First, MRN will need to be put to sleep, so Prada will be working on that throughout his chase, replacing Shack pallet now with a dream one. And Prada, using his snares, MRN finally asleep, can be slowed down and hit by those dream pallets I discussed earlier, but concerningly for him, he's stuck on this pallet at 8, has to play some 50s and work around it quite carefully. If he does go down here, things could be in a bit of a sticky situation for his team, but he does greed nicely and does not get down as he attempts to vault. We do end up dodging that snare, but no pallet to be seen. That will be us on the ground yet again. For that second chase, though, a first generator has popped. Macro and L5D also have a fair bit of progress on both of their respective gens, but concerningly for us now is that one of those gens is Gallows. We are hooked right on top of them, and that will be L5D taking distance away. Now, having Shack still to play around, not the pallet at least, but just the window. Teleport also comes out to Gallows itself, trying to prevent the unhook from occurring, but finally, our survivors have slowed down. MRN will not be instantly unhooked rather, this time around, and instead opting to split some gens. Macro and Sultan working 2 separate generators as L5D's gen at Gallows is left to regress. Prada setting up shop here, placing down all the pallets he may need for the future. Gonna prevent anybody from approaching safely and also prevent MRN from escaping this area. Prada is in a bit of a strong spot, although the longer he does sit here and allow MRN to be camped out, the more and more progress every single survivor will build up on their generators. We do see Macro about to pop his gen. That will be the second generator completed of the trial. Sultan and L5D now will be working there. Actually, Sultan has rotated off of his generator to get a trade. This will be yet another pain raise. That unhook came narrowly close. That was quite fearful, but tenacity has driven us away from that hook. Sultan will now be picked up and pain res will be applied. Amaran has taken all that distance to main, will play quite safely around. Prada cutting off the chase yet again, teleporting to the gen up here and spots out Macro, who drops off main building. Balance landing used, and that will buy us some safety. We do not have many resources left on this side of the map, so this tag will just send us towards the only pallet we have, and with Sultan on hook, things are looking a bit dicey. L5D is sticking the gen. No tie condition, as we mentioned, from all the penalties, so nothing to come from this just yet. If that generator does pop, Prada would still be in the lead, and things that Prada is in the lead of right now is definitely because of that down. He has been able to secure that, despite the fact that Macro had made that pallet on his screen. God bless Ping, and L5D will be sticking his generator wherever that may be. MRN has also been spotted out now with Sultan on hook and Macro on the floor. Things are looking very, very dicey. MRN will need to last as L5D does eventually get off that generator to rotate to the unhook. But Prada, all too aware of what the survivors must do now. Emeran going to be in Chaser 2. The tunnel out is his preferred option, sacrificing his game state just for that. And Emeran out of options. That pallet at 1 was fake, so he will be down, and that will be him exiting the trial at 3 generators.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of that pressure over towards 9 with the hook, the down, and the force off the generator to go pick up both of those survivors there just allowed Prada to get his tunnel out safely over at 3, and he did so efficiently. He did not waste any time because all of a sudden our survivors are back and up and running and ready to press the gens as we do spot out. I believe this is our Rebecca Sultan just trying to slam out 5, but does momentarily get caught after vaulting the window there and does go down, slugged back on the floor. Prada going to be catching out. I think they went for a reset here. They did not go for the gen pressure because one of them did come off the hook. My apologies. But actually, Sultan was the one who came off of the hook. No, I'm just losing my mind. But L5D going to be vaulting over that pallet there over at the carriage towards 8 and just has to W away into the corner of 8 even. So Prada, knowing that, tries to cut off the rotation to the pickup but does not get there in time. We do have to just commit back onto Sultan and get him back on the floor, but he has the window and is nice and safe. All in the meantime, one of those generators was about 85 or 80% of the way finished, so Prada doesn't want it to pop anytime soon. He wants to be able to hold on to the 4K3, and it is 5 that was very close to being finished, I do believe, so we have pressed our survivor off that generator there. I'm not too sure who this is, but we've tried to cut them off over at Gallows, and I think they've caught onto that and doubled it back straight back to 5. Yeah, there's the rotation coming in now. It is our only healthy survivor, Macro, to be the man for the job. He does only have a drop filler pallet over here at the water tower to be working with, and the totem has got him off guard, and he's ran into the totem, and that smelt the tag that Prada needed. Everybody in the trial all of a sudden injured at this very moment, and we're forced into the upper half of main. Sorry, just pre-dropping that pallet on the outside, and I don't even think we make the vault there, and we faked it to try and bait out the swing, but we're not going to even bite. Prada playing extra patient, going to be able to pick up here and get his pain resonance stack in. I know we would have wanted to slug this at some point, but we need the regression, so we need to pick and we need to get the hook here. We need to also spot out L5D and Sultan. I'm not even too sure if they're going for a little bit of a rotate on this, on a little bit of the resetting happening. Yeah, there's the killer instinct, and they were hiding into the bush. It was Sultan who is next to our other survivor. They did 99 themselves as well, so they got a little bit of a last-minute reset happening before our killer's eyes, and Prada just trying to cut off the rotation back to that hook. Does manage to find out Sultan again, but is forced to break this pallet on the outside of the shops over at 2. As we do break the breakable door as well to make this tile just a little bit more accessible to us if we so need. Prada is now just going to be going back into the front of the hook. He's going to be playing extra safe and extra cautious. Very defensive, like as the survivors need to make their move. Do they go for the pull? Do they go for the gen pressure in the background? I think they just kind of sit in limbo at the moment. They don't really know what to do. Prada just straight back on the case over at main and has chosen the right generator to teleport to, as we do see Sultan be pushed off it and just forced to use that window on the lower half of main and the front side, more facing towards 12 road, and we are going to be playing around the fence to try and get this tag imminently, but we've bought ourselves a lot of distance to be working with, and it's going to make Prada work extra hard for it. We are going to be utilizing that backside window too, but we do still have the toilet pallet to our disposal here. Just trying to bait out that projectile, but not quite working out, and we've greeted the pallet there, but we've since we ate the tag, it is definitely a very good greed from our survivor there. Macro going to be hitting the second stage as well in the background there, as we do push off L5D from this 5 generator. So Prada, knowing that they didn't go for the save, knew they were slamming out gens as he was taking that chase over at main. We do manage to get Macro off of the hook now, going back for the eruption kick onto this generator here and following up the chase onto Sultan, but maybe we even go back and just get Macro out of the game as soon as possible. Who knows? We aren't going to be risking it though, so it's going to be L5D back in chase, our only healthy survivor, the one that you want in chase as far as the survivor team goes. Really still trying to get these projectiles in, but they're missing. But we are just trying to zone the survivors away from the most favorable spot to be taking the chase, which is what you were saying a little bit earlier in the trial, Chief. Well, I don't know if it was actually the intermission, but I mean, it's exactly what's panning out here. Prada making good use of these projectiles. Is still really trying to connect with L5D, but L5D putting on the jets, and he really needs to in this regard because we're still trailing by 2 generators here.
Yeah, we are in a very unfavorable position for the side of the survivors. We need to pop 2 generators, as obviously the 4K2 from Prada would still be the win from him because of the penalties applied due to all of the restarts. The Shack pallet isn't going to connect onto L5D. He's going to have to play quite greedily around the window, but holds distance quite nicely. Doesn't fall for the double back, and that will buy him some safety. Sultan now at 4 has to play around these extended TNLs. The door is not broken, so it is relatively safe, but we greed towards 3. The pallet will not connect, but we do not have enough distance to make it anywhere else, so that will be Sultan on the ground. Yet again, Eruption applied at 5 will go off, and we teleport now to Gallows. We did spot somebody on main last second, though, so this teleport was not where we intended. Instead, only catching off L5D, but he is still quite safe around Shaq. We cannot snare him. He has got sleep immunity, and for Prada now he needs to do his best to ensure that L5D cannot last in this chase. We are still snaring a man who cannot be snared. Prada, please stop and swinging at the window. It does not connect as L5D hits the fast just in the nick of time. Macro now sitting pretty on main. Teleport will come out to buy him some distance, but we fake it, and he jumps right into our arms. Balance landing, though, does prevent the tag. The swing. Prada swinging like he has a sniper rifle in his hand yet again. I think he is overestimating how much ping the survivors are actually on, and for Macro now, the snare does not hit at the right time, and Prada unable to make him medium and get a tag off of it. Macro does need to last, though. He would need to last for 2 whole generators at this point. L5D and Sultan need to be pumping those motors as Macro takes a tag to the back of main. Prada attempting to cut him off. Sultan sneaking in to try and get on this generator, but to no effect. It is going to now get kicked. Eruption has been applied, and to 5 we go. We do see L5D just on that generator with nothing left to play around but this pallet at 6. The snare will come out, it will connect, and that does mean we have to be so careful. The swing comes out, will be put on the ground. Eruption hits main, and this is yet another pain res for us. Prada, every single down secures his position more and more. His position is increasing by the second, and more detrimental to our survivors as any next chase could be the last. Macro will be dead on his next hook, and having the 2v1 occur right now would spell the end of the trial, especially considering not 1 but 2 generators do need to pop. We're going to try and hold Sultan captive here for as long as possible, but to no avail. The snare comes out at the wrong time yet again, and Sultan will make some distance around with his license. Over to 3 now, but fake pallet does interrupt us, and the tile in 2 is pretty dead, and so at this point Sultan can only be on the ground, and for him now a second hook as well. Him and Macro will be exiting the trial on their next, but L5D and Macro we do know are somewhere at 5. That might have been a missed skill check, which has just interrupted all of our progress, but once again Prada at main applying his eruption and making sure every single gen on the map is still protected. Hunter.
Oh, it's just looking so bad for our serves at the moment, having that down and that hook in the background as well. All in the meantime, we're taking chase onto L5D, which isn't the survivor we want at this point. Prado just going to be taking this break over to 5 and then just going back to main like clockwork, rinse, repeat scenarios all around here at the Dead Dog Saloon. And just the fact that we can't even tie the set for our serves, we will still need to pop 2 of these gens. And they've elected to press the gens that are furthest from each other. Granted, with that teleportation, it's just going to be all that much harder. Prada now to spot out Macro here at the toilet pallet, and he has to last in a chase like this. But with such a weak filler, I'm not too sure he gets out of this situation. But as he wins the stun, he is able to win the window here over at the top portion of main. He is going to be using around the front at top as well, so he isn't going to be going down and using the windows at all. Prada, knowing he cannot overcommit that chase, has chosen to push off L5D. All in the meantime, I do think that maybe Sultan would be over at Gallows or 8, just sneakily working a different generator that Prada is not well aware of. He's going to be vaulting the window and trying to catch out off guard L5D, but not quite connecting with the projectile there. Does push off the double. We were going for a double here all that time. So Sultan was just kind of holding hands with Macro, and with both injured, both on Death Hook as well, this could prove to be very, very bad. We do manage to get the head on though, and that's going to be the firecracker in our face. It was looking likely that we're going to be getting the down onto Macro, and all of a sudden our survivors are still in it. Sultan going to be going down as well though. So we're going to be picking him up and going to be getting him hooked and out of the trial. I don't know how far progress 6 is, but it could be very, very close as we do get this hook here. He's going to go for the teleport to reach the generator in time, and we're going to be pressing L5D off of it, but that forces Macro to work main in the background there. It's about only 50% of the way done even. It's so is this this generator here has got a little bit more in it, probably around 80%. If, you know, my memory serves me correctly, as we catch out Macro off guard, needed to pre-leave that generator so much earlier. L5D probably why have we gone to 5 in a situation like this? Where do you think the killer's going? He's going straight back to 5. Prada going to be putting up that pallet there just on the out front of 6. He's going to be exploding it too, but some good sportsmanship here from the boys over at Scouts, wanting to get this set over and done with, as we are going to be approaching probably the 15-minute, 16-minute mark at this point. So, oh my god, that was a series. Series? It is a series and a half, but this was a set and a half to pull it back 1-1. Currently Drew at the moment, and I said it was unlikely that we're going to be going to the tiebreaker of Lich, but we will be seeing him on the Ormond Lake mine this time around, as we do search inevitably for Macro, who is just here over at main somewhere, just crawling around. They are allowed to DC at this point as per referee discretion, you know, just to get the games up and running again, but even just crawling into the middle of the map, just into the loving embrace of Prada will suffice here. So, you know, 4K3 is the result we were looking for. Actually, we were looking for a 4K2 at the very least, but a 4K3 means we beat the last win condition regardless. This team for Semipro, so what can he pull out of the bag for us? Well, how about a good win condition this time around like he did last time? Sounds good to me. Actually, he didn't put forth the win condition. He met the win condition, rather, as he was not the first killer, so I will correct myself. Hang on a second. Are we on the wrong servers? Please don't tell me that's true. Doing a little bit of a ping check here, and seems to be the case that everybody is on the correct server here, because I hosted the lobby. There's no way that we are on any sort of Mumbai or any A shenanigans this time around. We are on Singapore, so first off the rip, we're going to be using those skulls there, not quite connecting onto Sultan. He's going to buy some distance back into 8, where he's going to be getting tagged because there's no pallet to his disposal, but he does have that very strong filler over in the guts of mid. He elects to greed it too, to just buy the distance instead of sacrifice it and potentially playing the 50-50 mind games, despite the skulls already being used. So good stuff from Sultan to realize the danger and try to play this pallet here over the top half of main, but it is going to be held up with Mage Hand, and there go the skulls once more. You got to crouch stand. He does so effectively and is forced to pre-drop the pallet this time around. Cannot greet it. Does win the 50. That's $100 in hand because he's vaulted the pallet twice. We are going to be breaking it here and following up the chase once more. Straight back into that fly mode to try and get in front of him, but putting it in the back pocket, faking it out there, trying to bait out the fact that we would run back into the killer, but not quite being successful in doing so. We are going to be pre-dropping the front top half of main here, but ultimately it's going to catch up with us in the end. We're going to be going down just after falling off of the top of main, and the survivors are having a very good start from here on out. A double in the generator over in the bottom portion of the map, and MRN about 50 or 60% of the way of his generator, wherever that is. Prada now just going to be slowing the game down just a little bit, trying to get some info with that eye of Vecna going towards the main building, but does not catch anybody out, as we have not heard the killer instinct go off just yet. But turn back the clock onto the generator over at 7 is going to regress it just a fair bit, going down from about 60 or 70% down to about, yeah, around 60 to 50%. So straight back on the case at this hook here. Prada going to be taking his ground straight back into that spell book here, trying to pull up the Eye of Magnus once more to find out anybody trying to work over at 11, or main rather. Is anybody working at main? Do we get the killer instinct? And we do. And it is somebody over at main here. Let's follow up onto this chase. Just breaking this generator just before we commence anything, or commit to anything rather. We are going to be seeing L5D straight off it, and then just trying to play around the railing there. Prada is just happy to take the vantage point and just try to scour the map to see the rotations after that generator over at 7 has been popped. Macro about 75% of the way. This game's progressing fairly quickly for a Lich set here, Chief. I think we're being a little bit too defensive, but we really need to force the second stage. And with a failed second stage, we've wasted so much time! That's not what we need! Take it away, Chief!
Yeah, I mean, look, that unhook coming out came at probably the worst time ever for Prada. I don't know why we haven't faked So why we have faked the window there, I actually think that might mean... No, we still have BT. Never mind. I can't count to 15. I'm glad Sultan can. He's bought himself maximum distance across the map. Jen's at 10 and main will be popping shortly. MRN is still on the ground, but I'm sure Macro, his friend, will be there to pick him up in just a second. But Sultan is on a tear. He's able to last in this chase just a little bit longer. We're going to make the pallet mid-9 here. The mage hand, though, will interrupt us, but another day, another filler will live on for another couple of seconds. We get to get a nice drop on that filler and give us a lot of distance around, and we can greed quite nicely back to the hill. But from this side, Prada does have a lot he can do. But no, the greed comes out yet again, and that spells problems for Prada. He must drop this chase. 4 generators have popped, and Sultan has been the man of the hour. But now it is up to MRN to follow on up on what Sultan has just done. He'll greed this downstairs pallet, head into the God pallet at 11. But Prada, overzealous with his skulls, trying to prevent him from using the God pallet here. Instead, he'll play to the upstairs. The mage hand does come out, but once again, I think we were too ambitious with it. But MRN greeds due to the extra duration from the Brown add-on. Prada getting the swing through just in time. That'll be his second hook of the trial, but Hunter, I do think it is too little, too late. Macro already is 50% on his generator, although it is this generator at 2. Prada's going to hook right on top of it. It might not be a pain res. 0 pain reses have been used, but at least this solo gen here can be given eruption. Prada, though, in a bit of a sticky situation. He really needs to find out another chase and get one of those pain reses, or potentially just some fresh hooks on the board. We're going to use these skulls, but the amount of distance our survivors have, yeah, I doubt they're going to connect, as we do see Macro and L5D here at 10. L5D in at the bottom side of 11. He'll hold as much distance as possible and try to play quite safely around, but once again, to the upstairs. Oh, no, rather, we decide to play the downstairs pallet. Prada does have mage hand, and this will result in a tag because we do not have enough distance to make it around safely yet again, but a good tag taken towards the God pallet. We do see, finally, MRN off that hook at 2, and skulls now come on out. L5D will be shot down over that God pallet. That's a nice down for Prada. He will need that pain res. A cracker save is attempted, but to no avail. This hook now can be dragged all the way to 9. 10 was another possible gen being worked. We do see no progress, but at least a pain res is finally going to get used. I'm sure that gen at 2 will be hit with it. Problems now for Prada, though, is 2 survivors on their feet, healthy. MRN, not an ideal chase at this point of the match, but is the only injured survivor. Finding him out near that gen at 2 would be ideal, but I doubt he's going to be playing risky. He still has Shack Pallet to his disposal. He can head on over and work this gen quite safely. We do see him actually rotating away from it. He's all the way at 3 now, but Prada having to do his damnedest to make sure this gen at Shack isn't going to pop. We still MRN rotating away, and obviously Sultan is here too. They were doubling. It's at about 80% in the skulls. Once again, elevation comes on out. We do get the tag on to our Rebecca and the fly to try and catch him off guard yet again, but he has so much distance towards main. The God Pallet cannot be used. We know it's already been disposed of. Never mind, actually. It was dropped, not broken, so a vault around we get and distance we can hold back to it. That does buy Rebecca so much safety. The stun as well. Max distance all the way back to the bottom side of the map. I wouldn't be surprised, Hunter, if we do see Shack pop right away. Prada is also forced to check too, but the lack of progress suggests that there's nothing that our survivors were worried about. And there goes Shack. 2 stages, rather 3 actually, on the board for Prada with all generators completed.
Wow, just good performance put up from the serves here, Scouts. But the job's not done just yet. We can't afford to get 3 more stages, especially with Macro in chase here. We need to make sure he lasts and that he doesn't go down. We do have the bodies ready coming on in, and we're going for a little bit of a beam attack there. And we've even denied getting through, being a little bit too peepo fats for our killer there. Macro out. 8 stages, 4K1 is the tournament average, 8 stages being the expected result. So not too far off here, and especially with these matches following after it, it should balance out to around that mark after the 4K1 fact. But L5D going to be taking that Eye of Vecna straight over towards 11 after flying in that vicinity too. We are going to be spotting out somebody very, very early over towards a very unsavory location. 2 people, in fact, just sitting around here towards pallets that just do not serve them any justice, but we do have the pallet gym here. After it's going to be faked up with the hand there, we are going to be eating the tag very, very early on onto the side of Prada, who's going to be forced into 11 now, but has ran into a whole lot of nothing. And we've cancelled the flight just in time to get the hit through the pallet. Maybe no, we do win the pallet there just by the skin of our teeth. And we are going to be dodging the skulls like clockwork too. We are also going to be making that fillet pallet here, but with the hand going up, we are forced to play the further edge map one, and we've tried to bait the killer out a little bit by just momentarily walking into the fence, but that's just sacrificed so much distance. We'll be going down. And that's going to be Prada's first stage. And a pain resonance too to negate some of the pressure that we've been getting in the meantime in the background. So not the start that you want. You want at least 2 generators popping for the first chase in a scenario like this if you are to take away the set. And I do think Prada knows that. And then team at Semipro all of a sudden find themselves at the back foot as we do have to rotate off of 3 back down into the guts of 1. We do have the pallet just hold it up here, held up by the mage hand and whatnot as we do take the tag just before making the window. Flight goes up too. We might even be able to block the window after the flight, and oh no, it is problems from here on out. I think it might just be over in the span of 1:30 here, Chief.
Yeah, this is 2 of the 3 stages we need for L5D to tie. I just noticed batteries included. Thank you, Mr. Streamman, for pointing that out. Batteries is a phenomenal perk on these lower tier killers. It allows you to sort of have a chase-orientated perk that isn't your usual BAM or Brutal. Extra haste whenever you're near a pop gen, which is, of course, where chases tend to go, and comp is so effective. Wow, that is a very unfortunate orb catching out midi. That's a very quick tag onto him as well. He's going to head on over back to 9, away from this gen at 10. We should have a little bit of progress, and L5D is going to do his best to put midi on the ground. We have to play the short side of this filler at 8, and unfortunately, it is quite unsafe. The hill can be sculled, but L5D unfortunately unable to connect with those midi, reading into that quite nicely. The swing around does come out. We do not make it in time. We swing into the pallet. That's a stun, buying us the distance we need towards these LTs at bottom mid, but midi will get the vault just in time. L5D unable to block off the window. Life towards the god pallet at 6. Oh my god, my voice. Hunter, we do see midi on the ground, but that is our 3rd stage for L5D. The tie condition already met, 2 generators having popped before anything else could occur. 1 more stage needed for Scouts to take the set.
Tag me in, Chief. I know your voice is being taxed at the moment, and I do apologize. It has been a very late stream, but yes, that will be the 3rd stage of the trial here as we do send the orb off into the corner of 1 again. We're not quite able to see anybody out, but we cannot afford to give up any more stages for Semipro, because if we do, we lose. But we can tie from this point on. 3 hooked, 3 fresh was the last result. So 3 hooked and 3 fresh is what we currently have now, but we need to manage to get MD off the hook. And all in the meantime, Reese's, being the injured survivor, spotted out here over at the shack. He needs to last 3 generators. Needs probably a body as well at some point in this chase, but has opted to play on the long side of Shack, and there's just nothing here. Can potentially get mind gamed at the window, but does not fall for anything of the sort. Does get caught at the cross point there, trying to do a little bit of a window tech. Skulls go up. You need to crouch those, and that's going to sacrifice the distance, because if you don't, you're on the floor, buddy, and that's going to be Scouts taking away the entire series 2-1. Very well done to them. And L5D putting on the performance back-to-back on both of his killers right now, and this one still isn't over. He definitely can still 4K1 on the lick here, but we are going to be popping the den just in his face here over at 10. That's going to force the chase over into 11. L5D trying to fake out the hand there, but puts it back. Now it goes up. This is going to result in a tag on to Biru, who has played that. Just a little bit unfortunate getting tagged through. And oh no, the skulls are even on top of him for the down. That's just terrific. But this is going to be another pain resonance yet again. If we do have one in the vicinity, yeah, we got one over into mid. But the pressure's actually been pretty good from our serves. Only 1 generator left to go. Everybody in the trial, or actually, no, there's only 2 others that are injured. We got Prada, who's on a full health state, so we can work with him just as long as he's not really the one in chase. Maybe if we catch out this reset here and just play the duos and whatnot just after getting it off, we can actually pull pull it back to at least mid to high stages. L5D following up here does manage to spot out Reese's on the corner of Shaq. Doesn't have the Shaq pallet to be working with and does not dodge the skulls. This is the second time it's caught him. Oh no, we've blocked him at the window. We win the window and face through him. How about that? As we do play around the wall there again, we are going to be catching him just before he reaches anything else potentially. No, we have tried to send it down into 3. We have the window laid for us. He needs to fake this and does so. And the killer's read that. Bloodlust 1 in hand. He does not make the pallet over and the Ormond filler off towards 2 more so. So we're going to be picking him up. He's going to be out of the trial. I'm not too sure what the pressure is looking like currently. If we do look around the map here, we do have the likes of 11. We do have, I think, 8 and maybe even Main after resetting over towards in the corner of 7. I do believe where L5D is ever so close to that reset, just come and closing in, not quite catching anybody. You might even hear it after checking a locker there. I think it was over at 7 unless I'm completely smashed.
9,
but
Hunter.
9. Okay, we're still pretty close. We're still pretty close, but we managed to get 11 up and away 50% of the way, might I add. 7, 11, and yeah, what, 8 was the remaining generators? I don't know where the last one was, Chief.
Well, we do have 11, we do have 7, and we'll wait for L5D to turn around and we can confirm that third generator, because I also have no damn clue, but I do know, obviously, that L5D has 1 pain res left, and the one that he did use was from Reese's. His Death Hook Survivor was a pain res, and it was used on 11, interrupting Midi's gen, but Prada now caught out at 7. Also, the final gen is Shaq. I've just spotted it out the corner of my eye, and unfortunately, Prada's tried to jiggy away from this gen at 7 all the way to Shaq, and unfortunately for him, he did have Killer Instinct on him, meaning that the jiggy was unsuccessful. But now, the skulls used, we're in the pit, and Mage Hand is available to us. We will be able to make this window towards the LT6. We swing regardless. Oh my word, never mind. We do have a sniper rifle. That is not Mumbai. We are from the UAE, but Mumbai nonetheless, Hunter. What a beautiful sight, but also a beautiful sight. Our survivors sticking this gen at 11. Midi and Biru will get it done. 4K0 at the very worst from this point, as I do believe Midi will be going down here at 11. Nothing he can do with the pallet held up, in Biru, the last man standing. He's going to head probably all the way back down to 7, trying to pick up Prada and scramble to get stages out the door. Not that it does matter, Hunter. Obviously, the game is all over, but I'm sure Semipro are looking to play for their best result still. And at this point, I do believe that a result of about, what are they at? They're at 7 stages? 6 stages. 6-4. That's the math. I think 9 stages is a pretty comfortable result that we could see come out here. And at this point, we do see Midi and Biru back on the ground, so every single time a survivor ends up not lasting in chase, the more and more likely we are leaning towards that 4K0. But we do see Prada on this gate here. He will escape the trial. It's going to be 10 stages for Fresh for Semipro.
Oh, he does. Yeah, no, you're right. He does escape. Wow, that was close. He could have potentially went down just before opening that gate and then even just been hooked for the 4K0. But you're right, 9 stages in the end. Or was it 9 stages? We managed to get all survivors, actually. That's 10 stages for Fresh. So, I mean, even better result, realistically. Just above the average and whatnot. But he has had a tremendous game nonetheless. And the survivors did even play extremely well. It's just unfortunate that Killer wasn't able to kind of match this win condition or match the tie condition nonetheless. And maybe create a better result is more so what I'm trying to describe. But, I mean, it does tend to happen to a few of the good players, and that's what you're seeing here today, you know, Div 1 in all of its glory. It was actually a thrilling series to watch. Everything pretty much going down to the wire. I mean, Semipro had the upper hand at the very beginning of the series, and then the reverse sweep coming in from scouts. It's just not every day you really see that. And that being said, that's all we have for you today. That is the entire stream done. Thank you all for being here for what seems to be closing in on about 7 hours or just short of. Thank you to the staff on the job. I know a lot.